Good morning, everybody. No. Good morning, everybody. That's better, like my grammar. Welcome to day 2. What I'd like to do is to just review yesterday before we start going through everybody's business plans, just to see if there's any questions. I'm sure last night on your way home or on your way wherever you went, you had loads of things going through your head. Is there anything you want to ask at the moment before we move forward?
Can you expand a little bit more then on the drawdown facilities? Yesterday you were talking about drawdown facilities.
On drawdown facilities, it's really, if you have a property that you live in, there is a type of mortgage out that they used to be called offset mortgages, type 1. Virgin did a type 1 mortgage, and basically what it does, it allows you a revolving credit based on the value of your property. So they'll lend up to 70% of your property anytime you want. So it's permanent.
So residential, yeah?
Yes, on your residential home, which means that if you've got equity in it, let's say you had £500,000, or let's make the numbers nice and easy. Let's say you had £1 million house and you had a £250,000 mortgage. It means you could have a £500,000 facility that at any time you can write out a cheque. Okay. Now, has anybody ever used a cheque in a negotiation? Because it's so much fun. Okay. I don't know if I've got one of the cheques in my wallet that we use sometimes. Right. Right, who we're going to negotiate with. Okay, let's paint the scene and let's do a role play. I've gone round with the estate agent to your house. You're trying to sell the house. It's been on the market for 120, and the estate agent has suggested to me that you may accept 100 for it. Okay? So that's the scenario. I'm round his house looking at the property, and we'll talk about estate agents tomorrow, but the type of thing that they will set you up for is come and have a look at this and let's make an offer and see how we go, especially if somebody's had their house on the market for some time. So I will spend some time with you and we'll do some rapport building. The estate agents get a little bit funny about you hanging back and chatting to the vendor. But it's important because your relationship with the vendor is key. Okay. I remember Mike used to work for Connells. I used to get a lot of deals with, and I was actually on the way to an airport, and he phoned and said, "I've got a house you need to come and have a look at. This bloke wants to move to Australia as soon as possible. You know, he wants to sell quick," and he said, "Like, I'm happy to reduce the price quickly." I said, "Oh, I'm actually just on my way to the airport," and I'd literally just driven off my driveway. I said, "Look, don't worry about it. I'll come round. Where is it?" So I went round, and because I got to the point of relationship with him, and if we go one back, there was a property which is my highest cash flowing property at the moment. It cash flows just over £3,000 a month, and I paid 180 grand for it, and I've got a £300 a month mortgage on it. And the house had been on the market originally for 250, sold for 220, and he said he kind of had a figure of about 200 that I may be offering for it when I went to see it. But it was in quite a state. The lady's son lived there with his mates. There was needles all around and all that sort of stuff. And we'd gone in. I went in with my wife, and she came out and she said to Mike, 160. And the look on his face was a picture. And we quite often play good cop, bad cop. Then I actually said to him, "Look, that's probably a little bit harsh. We'd be prepared to pay 180 for this." And Mike's like, you can see the anticipation of the dread of the phone call to the vendor. And he actually said to me, he said, "I don't know about that." He's gone, "I kind of thought they might accept 200. I said, look, what is your job title? What is the job title? It's a negotiator, yeah? I said, your job title, what is it? He went, I'm an estate agent. I said, no, what are you? What do they actually call you? He said, a sales negotiator. I said, we're going to negotiate. I said, go round there, see them, tell them what a great buyer we are. You know, tell them how hard it is to sell a house with needles all around. And he went off and he did the deal for us. And I did a lot of deals with Mike. In the end, he came and worked for me. But I turned up at this gentleman's house. It was a one-bed flat. It was in Downs Barn, for anyone who knows the area. And basically, I said to Mike, we'd never actually met a vendor at one of the actual houses. He'd always dealt with them remotely. And it was the third or fourth house I was buying from him. And I said, right, what I want you to do is to just go with the flow and shut up. Don't say a word. Familiar with that one, Ian? Like, go with the flow, shut up. So he's like, okay. And you know it's a little bit difficult to sort of talk the arrogant agent and show him how to do something different. So anyway, the bloke said, do you want a cup of tea? After a few minutes conversation, I said, yeah, why not? And I sat down and Mike's sitting there. It's a one-bed flat. And he's like, we've looked around. And he's sitting there drinking tea. And then I started talking about the bloke's DVD collection. And he had lots of John Wayne films and all that sort of stuff. And so we had a long conversation because my father-in-law collects John Wayne films. And there's been a few that we've been particularly looking for him for his collection. A bit harder to get. So we was having this conversation. And then said, where are you off to? He said, Australia. And we had probably about 25-minute conversation. And then I left. And then Mike spoke to me outside. And I said, look, I'm prepared to pay, I think it was 80 grand, and it was on at about 120. I said, I'm prepared to pay that. And he said, well, the bloke was expecting sort of 100, 105, something like that, but I'll have a chat with him. So Mike went back in, had a chat with him, and by that time I was halfway to the airport. He phoned me, and he said, do you know what he said? I said, go on, tell me. He's gone, he would accept your offer as you were such a nice chap. Okay, so the rapport building is very, very important. Okay. Now, so I'll do a bit of rapport building with you, and then I'll say to you, look, if I go ahead with this offer, do you use a particular solicitor? What solicitor might they be?
John and James solicitors.
Okay, right. If you'd like to give that to them this week, okay. And what's today? Friday, yeah? You can have that in your bank account by Wednesday.
Super, John. Excellent. Appreciate that.
Okay, now, presenting someone with a cheque is far better than presenting someone with an offer, because they've actually got to go through the psychological barrier of handing it back to you and dreading the fact that you might not give them another one with any more numbers on it. Okay, so do you want to read out what that says?
Yeah, payable to my solicitor, £80,000.
Remember, it was on the market at 120. The estate agent has said that he might accept an offer for 100, and I've just written him out a cheque for this. And he's in a choice now, because once he's got that cheque in his hand, psychological, he's started to spend the money. Okay, it puts you in a very strong negotiation position. Now, we all know that by giving you the cheque, your solicitor will not accept that cheque. Okay? Your solicitor will not be able to accept a cheque from me. Okay? But the theory is that my solicitor can send the money to you by Thursday, providing we've got the cash, and that's where the drawdown facility comes in very, very handy. Okay? Because you can write out a cheque against the property. So that having that facility, or having any facility in conjunction with a cheque, so always have a cheque with you, when you go, if you think that there's a chance that they might accept it, their solicitor, so they can't cash it. Their solicitors can't actually cash it because they can't accept money from me because they haven't done any money laundering. So the check's worthless. Okay. The fact that the 80 grand is the 80 grand now, and the fact is he could have the 80 grand in the bank. So if he turns around and says, "Oh, my solicitor can't accept a cheque from you," I can say no, but what we can do is my solicitor can send your solicitor the 80 grand by Wednesday. We can have it completed by Wednesday if you want. Obviously, if you want to exchange on Wednesday and move out at your convenience, then we're happy to do that for you. Okay, but it's a hell of a negotiation lever.
How do you get all the paperwork done so quickly?
We've actually done an exchange within 2 hours before. The challenge is having two sets of solicitors who know how to work with each other because they already know each other's contracts. Okay. One of the biggest challenges is most solicitors have got standard contracts, and most solicitors' standard contracts are different from another solicitor's contract, and they want to read the contract. So I've always had two sets of solicitors that are happy, so I can give you a set of solicitors. Part of the conversation is, look, you can give that to your solicitors, or alternately I can sort out a cheque to another set of solicitors who already know our contract that can definitely do it by Wednesday. So if you go and check your solicitors to see if they can do it by Wednesday, if they can't, we've got ones that can. Okay? And it depends his motivation as to why he needs the money. You know, there's been times when people have said, yeah, okay, we'll use your solicitors. And we've sent them to Helen, who now works for me, at City Law when she was working there, and you know, she's exchanged with Caroline, my other solicitor at Neves. They've exchanged within a couple of hours for £1, and that's normally enough to stop a repossession. If you need to, you don't necessarily have to exchange for a repo, but we'll talk about that when we talk about repossessions.
The legal process is set up to be adversarial, and a long time ago I set up a firm of solicitors conveyancing process with Hambro Countrywide acting on the other side of the equation, and they were doing completions within 7 working days, and it's a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week. It depends on your solicitor and the compliance of them.
Okay, and what we do for our, obviously you're not going to get a mortgage that quick, but we do our searches, we just pay search indemnity insurance. So you can get lots of little insurance policies at 100 quid, 200 quid each to cover everything off in case something goes wrong. Okay? And they're not that expensive. You won't cost you more than 500 quid in insurances to be able to exchange. We've done exchanges in several hours, in completions in 2 days before. But the two sets of solicitors must know each other's contracts.
Yeah, just one final point. Just going back to the scenario, the property's worth 1 million. The mortgage is 250, quarter of a million. So you have 750,000 equity. What percentage of the equity are allowed to use for drawdown?
Most building societies will be between 65 and 75% in total. That's why I said you'd have a £500,000 drawdown facility. Okay.
Yeah, fine, thanks. Yeah,
Any other questions? So let me ask you a question. What do you see as a mentor? When do you need a mentor?
Yeah, and I would say from the very outset of your career, really, in housing, because I mean that will essentially avoid any sort of fault or pitfall, if you please, you know, and to make a mistake. Because I've made some mega mistakes, cost me tens of thousands of pounds because I was a lone ranger. I'm speaking from personal experience now, doing things on my own. That's why I'm here today, because...
So if somebody wanted to do what you've been doing, and they came to you to help, you could stop them losing that £10,000.
Precisely, correct.
Yeah. And does anyone know of any sort of high-profile people who have mentors?
Can you please clarify your concept of a mentor, because it varies. Some people consider mentorship when you only receive ideas and you take your decision, and others consider it more like a coach, giving you direct advices on what to do and how to make a business plan.
Okay. I see a mentor who gets It's somebody who can get the best out of you, okay, as well as guide you in what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so I think it's important that you find someone who's already walked the journey you're trying to walk. Well, that's my opinion. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I would say a mentor is someone who's where they exactly that. They are where you want to go. They are there. They've done it. They've walked that journey. A coach is different. A coach is someone who can help guide you along that path and facilitate you. But a mentor, I see as someone, because a coach might not have been where you go, but they might have processes and be able to take you on a way to assist you to unlock your own resources. But a mentor, I would say, is someone who is where you want to go. They've been there, they've done it, they know it, and they can unlock and take you places and get the best out of you.
And I think it's important to try and get into the client's head and understand exactly, you know, everybody's in a different place, and different people need different things. So for me, it's about understanding the individual. So for instance, I've learned how, and Ian came on my private clients mentoring some time ago, and he's kind of stayed there for several years. But when it comes to button pressing, I'll let you share the button pressing story when we was in Portugal.
A few of us were fortunate enough to have Glenn to ourselves in Portugal. He did a mastermind in Portugal, and if any of you get the chance to go on that, I would recommend that you jump at it, because in that environment, not only were we on holiday having fun and socialising and getting inspired, but Glenn actually took us through an unlocking process, which was incredibly powerful. And
different for every one of the people there.
So it was fascinating. I recorded this session, and for me, what I heard on the recording was a different experience to how I went through it. And what I went through originally was trying my best to answer Glenn's questions. When I listened to the recording, I just heard this complete idiot avoiding Glenn's questions at every turn. It was a complete surprise. And I discovered that I was unconscious to the avoidance that Glenn was asking me simple, direct questions like, how many deals are you doing right now? What have you got on the table? What's going to exchange within 4 weeks? What's actually going to complete? And I'd be just bluffing and...
So I think you told me what you wanted to do over a year.
Yeah.
And you've been working on it for a little while.
Yeah.
So therefore, in order to complete, if you were going to do £1 million a year, you need to do somewhere near 100 grand a month. If you're going to do 100 grand a year, you need to be doing somewhere like 10 grand a month. So I needed to know what was in his pipeline, because he said, this is what I'm aiming for, this is what I'm doing, this is what I've been working for the last 4 months. So I was like, if you've been working on that for the last 4 months, because Ian kind of reappears every now and again back on the scene when he feels like he needs a bit of a prod. I said, okay, you've been off working on this, what's your pipeline? And he's like, well, I'm going to be doing it. And I'm going, no, what is your... And this is how it went.
It was an incredible process. It was painful. I will share that with you. It was... but I've given Glenn absolutely... you know, like James Bond has this carte blanche license to kill. Glenn has this license to push any button at any time. There's no place I want to hide from in my life. That quote that was up there yesterday that was, you know, life is meant to be lived fully without fear of going to the new places. And that's for me how I want to live. And that's why Glenn as a mentor lives like that. I don't see you shying from anything. And
I wanted to take him to a new place, because he spoke about that last night, and I wanted to take him to a new place in the gym today where he couldn't do something.
I pushed 1/4 ton this morning.
Congratulations.
I never thought. I've never done that. And I never thought I could. And I wouldn't have tried had I not been put in that position. And if we could potentially hook the iPhone up and give you a proper comedy show. Me trying to push 350 kilos, and I couldn't shift it, and Glenn was just going. So that's where I want to go. So there's just no place that we want to switch off in our life, is there really? And yet it might take some pain or some discomfort or some effort.
There's no growth in
there's-
the comfort zone.
Yeah, no growth in the comfort
So
zone.
I'd seek permission from people and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard do you want me to push you? And on that particular session, I don't think there was one person who we didn't hit tears.
It was incredible.
Because I actually said to them, I'm going to push you harder than I've ever pushed you. But there's only 5 of you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so 11 out of 10 is push 11 out of 10, because I want to go to places that I haven't been to before. Otherwise, what's the point of a mentor? A mentor is to take you somewhere that you didn't think you could go. So that's a very powerful place, because that's the difference that makes the difference, that gets you doing things that you would never have done without that mentor. That's why the British won the Tour de France. That's why Mo Farah won what he did. So
And I think that Markella had probably one of the biggest changes.
totally. It was great watching the other people go through that experience as well, because whilst I couldn't observe myself until I listened to my own recording, what I could do is watch the other people, and watching Markella do exactly the same. She was very, in fact, she was kind of sizzling with anger, wasn't she? And she was also doing diversions, and actually she stated her goals so clearly, and then Glenn invited her to step forward and do rent to rent, to give up her day job, and she fought you. I mean, properly fought you.
So I don't want to do that outright. I'm going, look, if you want to give up your day job within like a year, forget that. You can do it within 3 or 4 months if you want to, but you're going to have to do this. It's not something you want to do from managing the properties, but you can get them sub-managed. It's not something, you don't like the concept, but it will give you the result you need to get you to the point you want to be. And you told me you wanted to be here as soon as possible to pursue your lifelong ambition. She's a genealogist, and she's got an ambition of curing some disease that she wants to work on, and she can't start until she's in this place. And it's like, how hard are you trying to push yourself to get to this absolute dream that you've got if you're not prepared to do this thing? And we just pushed, and in the end we had 2 days of silence.
She didn't speak for 2 days. But she went to a place that she'd never been to before, and so, I would say, for me on the flip chart, is a mentor is someone who gets the best out of you, but they take you to a place that you were never going to go on your own. Like a personal trainer at the gym. I was doing my stuff in Brighton. The coach told me to do 10 reps, three lots of 10 reps, and then I start training with these guys, and they're doing 8 circuits of 20 reps 4 times, and it's a different level, and that's what you always want to be doing, is going to that next level. If Glenn hasn't got to that level of activity and success by choosing the comfort path.
So any other questions about, or any other comments about what you would need in a mentor? You've normally got something to say on the matter.
Well, my thoughts are, as I think I've probably explained to some of you individually, to actually work with Glenn and be paid to work with Glenn. Why wouldn't I? I would do it for free. I've told you that in the past. I've been investing for 10 years. However, probably as a hobby. It's not as a business, but we need to get into the business side of it. And going out on the days with Glenn and just seeing how he can transform, an end of terrace property. He's done it. It's something that I can do, but didn't know I could do it until I'd seen it. So it just goes back to the saying, thing that you were saying, on a much simpler scale. Just going with somebody that's done it and achieved it.
So I was running an event, thank you. I was running an event, there was 163 people there. It was quite a theatre kind of presentation. And somebody said to me before we start, I bet you cannot draw one name out of the hat of all the people that were there and then take that person to become a millionaire. So I said to them, look, let's do it slightly different. Let's draw 5 names out the hat and I'll interview the 5 of them in front of the 160 odd people there, and I'll pick one person who I will work with to take them to become a millionaire. Okay? What characteristics do you think I was looking for in someone to work with?
Burning desire.
Because I said, look, whoever I pick, I'm going to use you as my advertising. So, you know, I can show that I can pick someone out of an audience and take them to millionaire. But they've got to give something to me and make me feel that I can actually take them, because otherwise it make me look stupid. So anyway, I interviewed the 5 people, and Sean Brett was one of the 5, and he came up, and he was living in London, and I said to him, how badly do you want this? And he said, I'll do whatever it takes. I said, okay, you're living in London, are you prepared to move somewhere else where it will be easier? Because I've had clients that have moved from London to a different town, spent 2 years, built up 40, 50 property portfolio, then moved back to London. And he said, yeah, I'll do whatever it takes. I said, and how would your wife feel about that? He said, she will back me in any decision. So we got to, it was about 18 months later, and he's given an update. So what I like to do is to share with you what is actually possible within an 18 months of now. And some of you are already into property. Sean had been trying to get into property for about a year before. He'd been looking for BMV deals, he didn't know where to get them. He'd been trying to find a no money down deal, didn't know how to do it. So what I'm going to do is just say, because when we do our business plans, they've got to be realistic. I don't want you doing a plan that is totally unrealistic. You know, if somebody came to me and said, look, Glenn, I want you to make me a millionaire over 3 years, I'm starting off with 100 grand and I can dedicate 2 days a week to it, I'd say, okay, yes, we'll give it a go. If somebody came to me and said, look, I want to be a millionaire in 6 months and I can't get credit, I've got CCJs, I've got no cash, I'm going to say, well, look, there's some things, unless you win the lottery in the middle of it, doing what we're going to do is going to take you 5 or 6 years. I want you to have a realistic plan of what's realistically achievable. Wherever you are now, wherever you want to be, we can join the dots for you. Okay? So we can take you from where you are and take you to where you want to be. What we do is we run a weekly webinar every Tuesday between 11 and 1. I know a couple of you have been on the webinar. And basically what it does, it allows you to go out and get stuck. Allows you to go and try things and do things, and every time you come up against a brick wall you just jump on the webinar and say, Glenn, how do I get around this? Or Glenn, I found this deal, how do I structure it? How do I make the most money out of this deal? So that's what that's all about. Just because I've tried to design a program where we give you the information over the 4 days, and it's enough information for you to kind of know about it, but when you actually come to do it, you'll always get stuck. And the analogy I like to use is, who's ever watched World Championship ice skaters? Just kind of gliding around the ice, just making it look easy, because they've put their 10,000 hours of practice in, haven't they? What happens if you got on ice? Do you look anything like that? And it's kind of like that with investing. When somebody's been doing it for 10 years and immersed in it for months and every day, you kind of it feels very easy. But then you get people that are trying and starting off at the beginning, like, oh, what do I do about this and what do I do about that? And the best thing is like you said, it costs you £10,000 to learn what not to do. And that's what we can stop you from doing, is just making that one mess up that could cost you a lot of money. Now, it might not be the first or second deal that you might mess up. Ian, when he gets the deal, is straight, Glenn, how should I structure this? And like most of the time afterwards, he's gone, oh God, why didn't I think of that? But it's when you've been doing something for so long and in it so much, it just becomes very easy to come up with ways of doing structure and stuff. And I like challenges. There's nothing better than I like somebody to turn around and say, I bet you can't come up with a deal for this. So
Can I add something? You got the mic? I just want to share, I suppose, my personal experience is that when I first met Glenn, my confidence after 4 years of sitting on a beach travelling the world was my confidence in achieving was not high. I'd set my goals and achieved all my goals in life, and yet Glenn represented a tremendous opportunity for me and a great amount of fear as well. Actually, it's scary when you're in the presence of someone who's where you want to be, because you know that you've got there. You know, Glenn's kind of sitting at the top of Everest, and I'm at the bottom, going, I know I need to climb that mountain. So I just want to express that if there's any amount of kind of discomfort or fear or doubt, it's okay to feel that, because I know that place. And it's important that you acknowledge that fear is part of the process.
Well, everybody's different.
Yeah.
Some people don't get that necessarily.
Yeah.
It's nagging in the back of the brains, that in the back of your head, that should I do this deal or should I do this deal, or is it dangerous, or is there something hiding behind this that might jump out and bite me?
Well, what I actually wanted to say was I did the figures last night on that Eastbourne deal, and I've worked out that it'll pay me with the new loan term that's come through, it'll pay me $2,000 a month now until I've paid the vendor off in 8.5 years, and then it will be cash flowing 10 grand a month forever. So and was that a valuable mentor conversation? That's just what I wanted to say. You don't know what you don't know, and that's what a mentor does. Single conversation can change your entire life.
And that was a conversation. Well, I don't think there's a deal here, but could you have a look at it? Okay, so let's look at a realistic time frame of how long it takes to get someone from scratch, from zero to millionaire. It might be that you've got 100 grand already. It might be that you've got a bit more time. But let's start it from scratch, and I'll take you up through the journey, and you'll know where you are, because at some point there you can join. You may already be there. You already may be 2 years down the road if someone's starting from scratch. Now, what I would recommend for when you first get started is to look at rent to rent, if you actually want to leave work, give up your day job. And that we spoke about yesterday. But to try and build up some cash, to build a cash pot up, I think it's really important to work with a capital pot of at least 100 grand. Okay? I cannot see the point in taking 4 or 5 deposits out of 100 grand cash, buying 4 or 5 houses, running out of money, and sitting in a place of, like, I've seen it loads of times, where people's had 100 grand, bought 4 or 5 houses, spent all their money on a deposit. All of a sudden, one of the properties, a boiler goes. One of the tenants wants to move out and needs their deposit money back, and another tenant doesn't pay. And the money's all gone, and all of a sudden you start sitting there in a bit of a horrible place. So I'd rather always keep that buffer there. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who say never sell a house. And I do get that you know, every single property that you've got in the long term will make you a load of money. But it's all about, I think, building to a certain place in as quick as way as possible. And by flipping a few properties and building up a cash pot, it will allow you to get to where you want to be if it's millionaire a lot quicker. Okay, so you can kind of see the two time frames I'm going to show you. So for the first 6 months, so from 0 to 6 months, what we're looking at doing is to make enough from sourcing properties to build up a 20 grand pot. Okay? So how many deals at 2 grand a go do you need to source to build up 20 grand pot? 10. How many deals does that work out over a 6 month period? Well, you know, what's the timing cycle? Doing roughly 2 a month, yeah? You think that's possible? Of course it is. Yeah, for 1 day a week. It's very, very easy to go, and 1 day a week, if you could dedicate 1 day a week to a sourcing business, yes, you'll need some of the £2,000 to live off of. Yes, you'll leave some for your travelling costs, etc., etc. So I've done it very gently that you can quite easily put together 20 grand over a 6 month period. Okay? So for the next 6 months, which is 6 to 12 months, would you say you could repeat that? Yeah. In fact, it will be a lot easier because by that time you'll have clients and you'll also have people supplying you with properties. So realistically, you could probably do a lot more than that. So I'm doing a very slow build up to how to get some money. But if you've got 20 grand and you start marketing for deals in whatever town it is you want to market for, and you meet a vendor, the chances are you can do some sort of delayed completion deal with them or something when we show you how to do the no money left in stuff. So it's quite easy as well in the second 12 months to flip one property. Okay, to buy one, do it up, sell it, using that 20 grand working capital that you've built up. Okay, and make 20 grand from that. So where does that leave you at the end of 1 year? You quite easily 60 grand, yeah? First 6 months source, make 20 grand. Second 6 months carry on sourcing, make an additional 20 grand. Take the first 20 grand that you've made at the first half of the year, put the money into a flip deal, and when the flip deal completes at the end of the 12 months, you'll make that money back plus 20 grand profit. Okay? So that's 1 day a week. Okay? We're talking about sourcing 20 odd deals in a year and flipping one deal. Is there anyone here that feels they couldn't do that? So that's 0 to 12 months, 60k. Now let's sort of keep things simple and easy. Assume we're not going to carry on sourcing. The chances are you would. And let's just take that 60 grand and over the next 6 months, let's use that 60 grand to do 3 flips. So we do 3 flips.
I thought you were suggesting doing the first flip in the second week.
No, the first flip was in the second half of the first year. So after 6 months, when you've got 20 grand and you've started your marketing, you can do 1 flip. It doesn't stop you doing flips right from the beginning if you've got a JV partner. You know, if you've walked into a network event with your clipboard and said, looking for JV partners. So Sean did. He had loads of cash from people that were willing to do deals with him. Okay, and provide him the money, the deposits, whatever he needed to do the flips. That's how comes he was doing so many flips so quickly. It's only stuff that we've taught him how to do, how to go and find JV partners. So 3 flips over the course of the next 6 months. So we're talking from the 12 to 18 month period, 3 flips you can make 60 grand, 20 grand a flip. It's not hard to find 3 deals, is it? To do them, source them, do them up, sell them. So that takes your 60 grand to what? Takes you to 120 grand, yeah? Now I don't know what it is about people who get over 100 grand, but it just kind of happens all the time. They buy new cars. Okay? Not necessarily brand new cars, maybe second-hand cars. They buy a new car or car and they go on holiday. It keeps so I'm going to go, right, forget that 20 grand bit, right? It will take you 18 months to build up a working capital pot of 100 grand. Now, who'd like to be in that place? It's not hard. You just got to keep doing the same thing and make sure that you do it right, in the right way. Once you've got a working capital pot of 100 grand, don't spend it. Okay? Don't spend it on deposits or that sort of thing. Don't put it into anything where you're not going to get the money back out. But use it. Make your 100 grand sweat for you. Okay? If you really used it hard, you can do 25 deals in a year. Okay? You can do 25 deals in a year. And that 100 grand will go up and down, but it'll go in and out, in and out, in and out, if you do things right. Now, for every 5 properties you buy, you keep 3, and you sell 2. Remember, this is 18 months to here. Okay? In the 18-month period, in the next year, what's possible? If you do 25 deals in a year, and you sell 2 out of every 5, that means that you're going to be doing 10 deals that you flip. If you're making 20 grand a deal, how much is that? It's 200 grand, isn't it? Who'd like to be making 200 grand a year in property? It's 10 flips. 1 a month. Once you've got your funnel and you've bought your first one and that's going through and the refurb's done, and then you've started to buy your second one, it's just a funnel where you permanently have probably got about 6 or 7 properties in stock that are either on the market, having been sold and going through paperwork, or you're in the process of buying. But 10 a year is very, very achievable. Okay? As long as you're looking in the right area and doing the right thing. And that means keeping 15. Using the money back out systems that we're going to talk to you about tomorrow. Okay? So very realistically, from 18 months to 2.5 years, you can take your 100 grand and turn it into, what's that if you add that to it? 300 grand. And 15 properties, what will that cash flow you a month? You're heading towards the 3 grand a month, aren't you? And let's just assume that rather than that 100 grand, let's just assume that you decided, and this is what people do, they see a deal and they decide to take some money out of their pot and put some money in. It takes you 6 months to make 20 grand. This is kind of what people do a lot of the time. You put 20k into a deposit, yeah? And buy 1 property that cash flows £200 per month, yeah? So if you repeat that in the next 6 months, and then repeat that in the next 6 months, out of the money that you're making from sourcing, how long is it going to take you to get to 15 properties? If you keep spending your seed capital. it's going to take 12 years, isn't it? It's going to take 12 years to build up 15 properties. That pot is so, so important. It's so important to keep, and you'll sleep so much better. Having that 100 grand pot, knowing that if the boiler blows, you've got the cash to deal with it. You know, knowing that whatever happens, you can deal with it. So if you decided to just repeat that in the 2.5 years to 3.5 year time of your investment career, where would you then be at the end of 3.5 years? You'd have 500 grand and you'd have 30 properties. Now what you do is you put some rent to rents in right at the very beginning that pay your wages, okay? That allow you after 6 months to be able to leave work. Okay, so within the first 6 months you're sourcing deals, making a bit of cash, okay? So the cash is coming in, you're building up your 20 grand in the first 6 months, but you've also got yourself a couple of rent to rents which pay your wages, which then allow you to leave work after 6 to 12 months, which then allows you to do this properly. And 25 deals is very, very achievable in a year when you're doing this full time. Is there anyone here who doesn't think they could do 25 deals in a year? So, if you can get to £500,000 of working capital and 30 properties in 3.5 years, it only takes another 18 months after that to turn that into £1 million. So 5 years is the time it takes someone to go from scratch to £1 million if you do what you need to do. Okay? If you put the time and effort and work smart. And I wanted to throw that out there before you started telling me what your business plans are. Okay? So let's break for coffee and then we'll come and talk a little bit more. So in a little while I'm going to talk to you about the difference that makes a difference. Because we do quite a lot of mindset stuff today, because I think the mindset is very important as to how far and how hard you push yourself into doing stuff. Because if you're in a place where you're comfortable, you can choose to stay in that place, or you can choose to do something different. Okay? And it is a choice. And I quite often say to my students, when did you decide to do that? Now, a good analogy of that is somebody last month actually turned around and said, when somebody pulls out in front of me, I get very angry and I shout, you know, and I'd wind windows down and I stick fingers up at people. And I said to him, when did you decide to do that? You know, you have a choice. You have a choice. Every time something happens, what you've done is you've programmed yourself. You've actually programmed yourself to react in that way. Is that true or what? He's developed this thing where when someone pulls out, he gets angry and he goes like that and he does stuff. Is there anyone else who does that? Yeah. And that's a choice you've made. So, you know, when somebody says to me, this makes me really angry, and I go, when did you decide to let that make you angry? Okay? And it's the same with investing and pushing yourself. You know, when did you decide that you were in your comfort zone and you didn't want to push yourself anymore? Or when did you decide that, you know, you've got this target and no matter what, you're going to reach it? Because I can see that in Ian, when he has a target, he's going to reach it. And he's financially in a very nice comfort zone. And you've all got that decision to make, you know, and it's a decision, when did you choose to decide to go at it 100%, go at it 50%, or just kind of play at it because you're comfortable? Yeah, you asked me a question about Sean.
Yeah, just a question, just to ask, have we got access to Sean with respect to, I'm going to chat with him, you know, because obviously we were successful in a period of time. He's been, just wanted to.
Sean comes to most of our masterminds when he's not on holiday. Now, how we can take you to that place is the mentorship program is designed to... I know when you go out and you implement the stuff that I teach you over these 4 days that you're going to hit brick walls. Yeah, it's a lot to take on, especially when we get to day 4. Day 4 is all about showing you the concepts in your head, because structuring it is quite... I get solicitors ringing me up asking how to structure stuff. Okay, you know, when you get solicitors ringing you up going, I've got a client, they want to do this, and they're actually paying me to help them structure. They charge their client and probably say it's them that's doing it. But when you get paid from solicitors to help them structure the legal side and the setup of deals, you know you're doing something different. And basically every time you come up with a deal, we'll structure it in a way that will be most profitable for you. And the best way of doing that is to let you use my team. So when you become, and you come on to our mentoring program, you will have access to the whole team. The solicitors we use, the accountants we use, everybody. And we've made it at £500 per month plus VAT, something that's pretty much pay as you go. Because if you're in property and you're doing stuff, I will make the deals you do far more profitable than if you tried to do them on your own. Okay, you know, like that one I showed you yesterday, where we actually managed to build another house in the garden. I'll make far more money, or you'll make far more money working with me than doing it on your own. And the £500 per month is designed to be kind of a pay-as-you-go. Because as long as you can afford the first 3 or 4 months, after that, what you'll be making through the deals you'll be doing, with my help, will far outweigh any cost of the program. Or, if you want it a little bit cheaper and you've got the cash, you can make a one-off payment of £5,000 plus VAT. Okay? We also have monthly masterminds. Now, in the monthly masterminds, we meet here. We first of all spend the first bit of the morning talking about the current market. We normally have a guest speaker talking about specific strategies. We normally do some sort of negotiation role play. So we give you deals and you negotiate deals, you get it split into 2s. And then we talk about it afterwards. So it gives you practice negotiating real life deals I've done to see how your negotiation pans out compared to how we've done it and how we've structured it. The last part of the day is actually setting your goals for the next month. But we don't just set them in business, we set them 6 different aspects. Sort of some of them are in your home life as well. So one of the things we do every month is to think of somebody we'd like to say thank you for. We do it in a way where we have level 1, level 2 and level 3. So level 1 is very, very simple. Level 2 is achievable and level 3 is pushing it. Okay? But because the level 1's very easy, you tend to get started. And normally, if it comes to something like tidying up a garage or tidying up the office, it's the getting going which is the hard thing. So because it's designed scientifically that you get 1 point for doing a little bit, most people get that little bit and decide, right, I've definitely got to do that because I don't want to go back. Because we discussed what you did do the following month from what you said you were going to do. So imagine sitting there going, okay, I said I was going to do this like next month, and this is what I've done. And people say that they actually prefer to do the stuff so that they can come and tell everybody that they've done it, because they don't like to say they haven't done it. And we've had some fun. We've had a lady who absolutely terrified of going into estate agents, and in the end she actually turned around and said, I went into the agents because it was less scarier than coming and telling you I hadn't done it. We've been spending about 20 minutes, half an hour every month discussing rent to rent. We, as a group, go out, and there's a lot of clever people in our group that all help each other in their own specific stuff. We've got airline pilots, we've got doctors, we've got genealogists, we've got architects, we've got all types of very highly qualified people. And we do seem to attract the higher end of the intelligence bracket of the property investment community. And we normally go out for a meal afterwards and normally end up back at my house as well.
And the deal pricing as well, going out and seeing a property that you mentioned earlier.
That's a different thing I do on Fridays.
Oh, that's Friday.
That's my partnership program stuff. So, now, who believes in taking action and doing stuff? And who hates offers where you've got to act now or you don't get the deal? That is the price, okay? There's no discounts, no deals, no signing up today or whenever it is. But I do like to reward people who do act quickly. So, anybody who pays their first £500 plus VAT today, okay, will get an extra 6 months. If you leave it till tomorrow, you'll only get 5 months. If you leave it till Sunday, you'll get 4. Okay, and if you leave it till next week, you won't get anything. Okay, but the price stays the same. Okay, so no pressure. When it comes to the mentoring, I am here to help you, and it's kind of the bit that I really enjoy. One of the things that a lot of people have always said is, why do you do it? You know, I don't have to do my training business is something I enjoy. I make more money out of my property deals. And so I wrote a poem, didn't I? I called it a poem-ish. It didn't. No, we'll just stick it up on the wall for if anyone wants to have a look at it. But I do get a kick from helping you to help yourselves. That's where I get my enjoyment from. I do like button pressing. And I do get an enjoyment of seeing you go out there and succeed. I love it when you came and you were all chuffed to bits about the deal you'd done it's nice. Would you like to me to go through my story and how I got to where I am? When I was 5, okay, my mum asked me what I'd like to do when I grew up. And I said I'd like to be Father Christmas. And my mum said, why do you want to be Father Christmas? I said, because he only works one day a year. So the concept of only working a little bit kind of has always appealed to me. Now, something else affected me quite a lot when I was younger. I was 12 years old and it was Christmas, it was winter time. And my mum said, do you want to come with me next door to go and see we had a little old lady who lived next door. She said, do you want to come and see how she's getting on? So I said, yeah, okay. We went out of our door, shut the door, and you know when it's freezing cold and you pull your collar up and the wind's blowing freezing cold. And we kind of rushed to the gate, opened our gate, opened her gate, walked up. And my mum had a key for her house. And we opened the door, closed the door, and we stepped in. Have you ever been into an old person's house when the whole house isn't heated? It was cold. It was very cold. And then we went to the lounge. We opened the lounge door. And she was sitting there, and it was warmer in there. She was sitting in there, and she was sitting in front of the television, and she had a shawl round her shoulders and a blanket across her lap. And she was watching the telly. And my mum started having a chat with her, and my mum said, "Do you want me to heat some soup up for you?" And she said, "No, that's my dinner." And I said to her, "Why are you sitting here in the cold, like with blankets on, with the fire? You've only got one bar on, you've got more bars, why don't you put more bars on?" And she said to me she couldn't afford it. So I was 12. And I decided at that time, in that moment, that there was no way that I was ever going to be in a position where either me or any of my family couldn't afford the heat. So I actually said to her a few days later, "Can I grow vegetables in your garden?" Because it was all overgrown. And what I started doing is growing vegetables in a garden as we got into the summer, and started selling them to my mates' parents, my friends' parents. They're like, "These are a bit expensive, Glenn." I'm going, "Yeah, but they're organic, they're homegrown." And I give half the money to the lady towards her heating bill. So was able to help her a little bit, and I earned a little bit out of it as well. So I've just got a thing now about having a cold house. There's nothing worse than having a house that's cold. When I go on holiday, I leave the heating on because I don't want to come back to a cold house. I then got a job with Shoppers Paradise when I left school, but because my dad, and that was £42.50 a week, which was quite good money back then, because my dad, get a good job, get education. Has anyone got parents that say the same thing? So I left that to go and do an apprenticeship with Marconi as a trainee mechanical design engineer. And my wages went down from £42.50 a week to £22 a week as an apprentice. And I transferred up to Milton Keynes around 1980. Marconi Avionics opened in Milton Keynes, and I transferred from GC Computers in Bournemouth up to here. Got married when I was 21. Got a council house, or a development corporation house, which was a 3-bed house for the two of us, which we got as part of the job, and moved, and I did that all in the same fortnight. So got married, changed jobs, moved out from my parents' house, moved into my own house, all in the same fortnight. I then bought remember the Ferguson Clunk Click video machines, the old piano keys? I bought one of them and 11 films off of somebody who emigrated, one of the neighbours, and started renting them out to the people at Marconi, because a lot of people didn't have video machines then. So I started renting out a video machine and 2 films for £6. And that got busier and busier. So I started a business called One Day Videos. We used to rent the machines out for one day. And I started printing leaflets and delivering them locally, and kind of grew the business. I then did something, I went and bought a new car, not brand new car. It was a registration number. When I went into the showroom, it had a registration as GLN86T. So because it had my name on it, I felt like I ought to buy it. It was an RS 3.1 stage 4 engine, Holly 4-barrel carb Capri. An RS 3.1 Capri. Yes, it was a white one, and I was like 21, 22. The big mistake was that it was a better car than my boss. So I started getting all the crap jobs. He got very jealous. And his attitude towards me totally changed. So that was quite an interesting experience, learning how that affects people. Anyway, I got my qualifications. I was 23 and I qualified as a mechanical design engineer, and I got called in by the area manager or the site manager. Glenn, we've got 3 choices of 3 different jobs we'd like to. We're going to be doubling your salary, blah, 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 blah. Which one of these would you like? And I went, none of them. Here's my notice. Now, you know that crab thing? When crabs try to get out of the basket, everyone pulls them back in. Everyone at Marconi is going, you're mad. You've just qualified as a mechanical design engineer and you're leaving to do a mobile video library with a suitcase of films at night going around people's houses. And you know, so many people said I was mad and stupid, and why the hell did I want to do that? I was actually earning 3 times what I was earning at Marconi when I was doing my videos. And once I left work, it gave me more time to concentrate on it, and it grew to 6 people going out every night from my house. And then the neighbours complained. They started getting jealous again, because I'd kept going on holidays. I used to set myself targets and go on a holiday probably every 2 months. I'd go off on a 2 weeks holiday. I used to go on a load of them 1830 holidays, which was fun. And digressing slightly, I ended up going and being an 1830 rep for a year, for 7 months. Again, it was an experience. But moving backwards, at 23, gave him my notice and grew this mobile video library, got neighbours complained, and I was put in a position of having to move into an office or a shop or something. And I found a laundrette that was for sale. They'd moved out and it was empty, and the rent was £25 a week. And the thought of this £100 a month bill as well on top of what I was doing was terrifying. That thing, you know, that you don't know what you don't know. We opened the laundrette as a shop. It was in quite a rough area, so I actually got the old water tank, turned it up on one side, welded some doors on it with big padlocks, and kept all the videos in it. So if anyone broke in, they couldn't get into it, which is a good thing, having the engineering background to be able to design that. And we opened, and we took nearly £300 on the first day. And I discovered that day that shops were far more profitable than mobile video libraries, because they were far less labour intensive. But you don't know what you don't know. So I then decided to build up several shops around Milton Keynes so that I could stop doing the mobile. And fairly soon I got to 5 shops. At the time, I'd met my girlfriend, my daughter's mum, and so we grew to 5 shops. I went into estate agents one day because I had my council house that I'd bought and I was renting out, and I'd moved in with daughter's mother. I'd moved in with her, and I just went into the estate agents one day and saw this house, and they said this is a really good deal. And I looked at it, and do you know when something feels right? So I put a deposit down. Now that was at Bates Close in Milton Keynes, but I paid £108,000 for it. And that's a big mistake, actually saying to someone, I've just bought us a new house. Because there was no involvement, and she didn't like it. So anyway, we went out house hunting, and I found another house. And I was trying to find a way of keeping the other one that was cheap. And got to a point where we owned 4 houses. We moved into a house that was a 5-bed detached. It was £163,000 I paid for it, and I was about 25, 26 years old. I sold Bates Close 12 weeks to the day of owning it. I put the deposit down off plan and it took about another year for it to be finished. They were very behind schedule. But it enabled me, when we completed, to sell it again, and I sold it for 140 grand. So I actually only owned it for 12 weeks. But I didn't get it. I didn't get what was going on. I didn't go, oh, that's property, that's good, isn't it? I'd gone to an auction with a friend of mine, and he was bidding on a house that he was going to go up to 60 grand on, and it went for far more than that. But while we were there was another property, and who's ever been told never ever bid on something you've never seen? It's very good advice. Okay? So anyway, this property was going in the auction, and it was like 10 grand. I thought, that's pretty cheap. So anyway, I put my hand up.